That's pretty good, but I'm not exactly feeling it.
What?
What? All right.
Oh, come on, man. I worked hard on that.
I'll open it up with a rocker. Trust me, you'll love it. Slipping you the big one every single Saturday, every single week. It is the Golden Stallion, the man of tomorrow, Savzu, the rated R radio star, here for a little fun. And boy, I am not alone. I am joined by, well, I don't know if I want to say that, but let's make this clear, okay? I'm joined by the lovely and hyper-intelligent Dr. Stephanie Murphy. I'm just saying, you were singing that song to me this morning.
I was. We started off the morning first thing with me singing Slipper the Big One to you.
Down the steps. I'm not going to say why. I'm not going to say, I won't even get into that. But woo.
It's because we have fun in our household.
Things are taking place. That's a fact.
And Brian, you never have to be alone when you got me.
Oh, never alone. Yeah. Ooh. Anyway. Woo. Wow, we got a great episode to get into, and Stephanie, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course,
I'm excited.
Yeah, we do a show every week together. We do Sex and Science Hour.
That's right. We do Sex and Science Hour every week, and usually when you're recording Sovryn Tech, I'm not on the show, but I'm sitting there listening to it and being the peanut gallery. So
yeah,
and sometimes you'll hear me chuckle or giggle or make a disgusted noise or something, or
usually a good chuckle.
Or a sneeze if you're really unlucky that day.
Yeah, and great. I've been really enjoying season 3 of Sex and Science Hour, by the way.
Me too.
Granted, I'm the one, half performing it, but really, I listen back and I go, God damn it, that's entertaining.
Right. When you can listen back to your own podcast and say, man, that's good, then you've reached the heights of podcasting.
That's right. So why don't we let's start getting, because I've got a lot of interesting stories that I want to cover here. So why don't we get into what I call the foreplay now? It was actually a name given by a listener.
You got to do that before you slipper the big one. Really.
Now we're talking. So let's get into that. So I figured I'd start the show off with something. I'm not going to start to show off. I'm showing off every week, but I figure I'd start the show off with a very a website that I think is really, really helpful. I like to, give out some solutions, actionable things, because everybody always seems, ironically, to, all right, so here is a genuine irony. So many people complain about people complaining and not giving solutions, but then the people complaining don't really have any solutions for how to get the people that complain without solutions to solve that. You get what I'm saying?
A little confusing, but I understand what you're saying.
Right. So, whatever. I'm not one of those guys. I have answers, okay, for the things that I bring up. Whatever that answer happens to be. You may not like it, but I do have it. But anyway, here's a great answer. Here's a great solution as far as if you want to, especially, it's interesting. Sovryn Tech is a show. I know a lot of people that say this is the only tech show that they listen to. And I'm not 100% sure why that is, but I mean, I get people that probably have no interest in tech.
Good one.
Sure. Well, thank you. But I have a lot of people that get involved that, again, they really, I don't think they're interested in tech much. And so maybe they don't have enough history, or they haven't gotten a whole lot of education, in the whole matter, of how tech stands today, and the importance of encryption and things like this. So,
well, your show is not. I guess I'm preaching to the choir here, but your show is not just tech. You bring in like other issues, social issues, and human interest stuff besides just the tech. So I could see why it would appeal to somebody who wouldn't listen to your average tech podcast that's like dry and boring and non-political.
Sure, I think that's fair. So, but anyway, if somebody wants to get started on how to set all the, how to get like a lot of the things we talk about on Sovryn Tech, PGP encryption, just tons of different things, and maybe even know what a lot of these crazy acronyms, actually mean. I found a website this week that I thought that was really great, and it's from the EFF. And which, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, which I don't donate to them anymore. I donated to them for years and years and years. And then, frankly, when the whole net neutrality thing came down, they got so fucking political, and they were so wrong about pushing for it. I mean, they were dead fucking wrong. I don't care if you believe that regulations and all this stuff is valid. They were just completely off base. And so I don't support them anymore. Again, because a lot of the money seemed to have been going towards lobbying and political action and all this stuff, but sometimes they still get something right. And this is one of those cases. And the website is ssd.eff.org. And the link is in the show notes for episode 207. And the SSD doesn't stand for a hard drive. It stands for Surveillance Self-Defense.
Oh, cool.
Which is great. And you can go there no matter what kind of device you're using, what OS you're running. There's like 3 sections to it. One of them is overviews, which that covers, starts off right here, an introduction to threat modeling. And then, there's like full animated overviews. It's really great. Creating strong passwords, choosing tools. Then there's tutorials that break down into how to use OTR, of course, which is off the record, a very popular, extension for a lot of different chat apps, how to use PGP, how to use Signal, how to use Tor, how to use WhatsApp. I don't recommend using WhatsApp because I think that ends up into Facebook's honeypot, but it's there, and rightfully so, because around the world it's very popular. And then there's entire briefings, which look like they might get updated regularly, and they talk about a lot of various issues, frankly, that we've been talking about on Sovryn Tech for years, including there's one great one here that I recommend reading, which is the problem with mobile phones. And it goes into many, many things that I have brought up that not a lot of people care to bring up. So I love this website. I think it's a very, very handy tool. If people are looking for how do I get introduced to all this stuff, or how do I implement it into my life, this does just such a phenomenal job through various forms of multimedia right through this website. So again, the website is ssd.eff.org. Surveillance Self-Defense. I love it. I'm probably going to keep that in there's an appendix for the show notes for every single episode. And in that appendix, I have links to, of course, the show sponsors, but I have links to tools, websites that I think are like eternally useful. For example, there's a link to what I consider like the only great computer on planet Earth, and that being the LibreBoot X200 or the LibreBoot T400, either one of those. And there's other things there too that I just generally leave there, as I see fit. So this is one that's probably going to stick there for a little while. Again, good on the EFF.
Speaking of sticking, I was going to say the other thing that the EFF got right was they made those little privacy stickers that you can put over your built-in webcam on your laptop.
I'm still going through those.
I know,
got
I
from my
still
membership.
use mine too.
Yeah.
That was before they came out with the net neutrality stuff.
Yeah.
We bought a bunch of those stickers, right? Didn't we?
I got them through my, because I've been a member.
Yeah.
They just send you those stickers. I've got tons of them, but maybe I'm almost out, but I love those, and they were handing those out before it was like commonplace or cool to cover your webcam.
Yeah,
That's
I think it was
recently.
even maybe before the Snowden revelations, maybe just before, but I'm not sure. Don't
you
quote
might
me
be
on that.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, either just before or around the same time. So anyway, great website. Kudos to EFF for finally doing something that's not fucking political and people can actually do something about, like writing into your congressman, oh yeah, that's going to solve things. No, using OTR is going to solve things.
Wink,
using
wink.
Signal. Yeah, exactly.
Use that hand to jerk off instead.
Right. I mean, and talk about instant gratification. I mean, instantly, your shit's encrypted. Holy fuck. Why wouldn't I do that? So great website, great resource. Share it around. You can let people know that Sovryn Tech, pointed you in that direction. But there it is. And like I said, I'll probably leave it in the show notes for a while. Next bit of little foreplay here. We got one of them is going to actually, I can't wait to talk to you about it, Stephanie, because of course you're one of the original hosts of Let's Talk Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And we got a little bit of Bitcoin here in the foreplay. So we'll get into that in a second. But before we do, I gotta, I recently made a prediction, not like a hard prediction. Some of them I make and, they end up coming true. A lot of things with Amazon, some stuff with Samsung, yada, yada. But one that I made recently where it turned out things are kind of turning around is with the smartwatch. I was figuring, look, the smartwatch is pretty much fucking dead. Apple's not selling them very well. Google seems to have all but forgotten about them. And then like a week after I say that, suddenly then Google's buying out all these smartwatch companies and they're saying, oh yeah, no, we're going to release our smartwatches, first quarter 2017. And then at CES this past week, which I'm going to probably do a complete review of CES and everything announced there, because there were some good things actually. I'll be doing that probably for a Patreon episode. So we got some new patrons this week. Thank you so much for signing up. And of course, you just go to sovereigntech.com and for at least $1 a month, though I got my yearly statistics and over 52% of my patrons donate over $3. So
cool.
That's great. And that actually puts me in a very high percentile on Patreon performers. So I'm honored by that. Thank you. That total thanks goes to the Sovryn Tech listeners and the patrons, particularly on that. So anyway, at CES, a lot of people were announcing smartwatches. One in particular that came out that I thought was interesting, and I don't know what the hell took so long, but maybe they were just waiting for Android Wear 2.0, which is going to be released. There's a developer edition out there right now, but it's going to be released in 2017. Is the Casio, it's the 810G smartwatch, or the WSD F20. There's a whole slew of digits after the matter. But this is a rugged smartwatch, of course, from Casio. They're known for their G-Force. I wear Casios all the time. Not smartwatches, but, the thing here is that the big deal with Android Wear 2.0, and I want to ask you about this, Stephanie, actually, what your thoughts are on it. But the big thing with Android Wear 2.0 is that it was pushing the smartwatch category in the direction that I want it to be. I want it to be kind of how to put this? I want it to be sort of the telephone to the smartphone's television, meaning that you have concurrent technologies that can exist that can sort of serve a similar function. I guess I shouldn't say telephone. I want it to be the radio. I want the smartwatch to be the radio to the smartphone's television, right? I mean, obviously the television could do a whole lot more, but really the radio, you could still watch, you could still hear a baseball game. And so I want that concurrent technology where it's full featured, it has GPS, it has the ability to call, it can accept its own SIM card, all this different stuff. That's what I want a smartwatch to be. It doesn't have to replace the smartphone. I just want it to be an option. I want it to exist. And so it was encouraging for me that there were a lot of watches announced at CES that are going to try and go in that direction, because Android Wear 2.0 was all about making the smartwatches independent from the smartphone. More so, like this Casio 810G is going to have it has GPS built in. As far as I know, it doesn't have the SIM card, which kind of makes it moot. Mm-hmm. But it's a little bit better in that it can operate without being tethered to a smartphone. Because who the fuck wants an accessory to the smartphone? That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
But if it's kind of the same idea, just a different category, I think people would be interested in that. So, I want to ask you about this, Stephanie. I mean, how do you feel? What would you prefer? Would you want a smart watch or a smartphone? Like if you had one device to communicate with, which one would you want?
Boy, I'm just thinking it's really hard for me to imagine what a smartwatch could do because I've never really.
Okay.
I've never had any experience with a smartwatch.
Mm-hmm.
Last time I wore a watch was when I was in like 4th grade.
All right. Yeah. See, so that raises a great point though, because I, on the other hand, like I can't remember when I haven't worn a watch.
Yeah, you're a big
like I
fan
even
of
have baby
watches.
pictures of me, and I can't possibly know what's on that watch, but I'm wearing one. I guess my dad just thought, shit, put a watch on that boy, get him used to it. That's an interesting thing. Is that maybe because you never really wore watches that it's just like not even a thought.
Yeah, I mean, like I know smartwatches are getting really smart and really cool, and there's a lot of cool things you can do with them.
Mm-hmm.
I especially like the idea of using it as sort of like a second factor authentication token.
Yeah, we've seen people do that.
Literally strapped to you. It's way harder to lose than your phone. Well, I don't know if it's way harder to lose, but it seems like it would be.
Yeah,
because it's literally strapped onto your wrist.
Right.
But I think for me, one of the hurdles would be that I can't see that well. I actually wear glasses, but I don't usually wear them because my problems are mostly with distance vision, and so I only kind of wear them while I'm driving. But most of the time, even up close, I can't really see super well. So I like having a huge phone that's more like a phablet size,
right?
So that I can see the screen like decently big. So, and I think that problem is only going to get worse as I get older and my eyes get worse.
No, that makes sense.
So yeah, I'm not sure if a watch would just be too small for me, and I don't know if I could get a watch big enough so that I would still be willing to wear it. It would be comfortable to wear, but that I could also see the face very clearly.
Yeah, and that's something else too, is that, I mean...
I don't think I'm alone on that, because there's lots of people, everybody over the age of 45 pretty much is farsighted, so...
Yeah, you raised some really good points on this. I mean, it's something that exists within the world, culture as we have today, is, you have a woman's watch and a man's watch, and a woman's watch is significantly smaller. Like, I mean, that's just it.
Yeah, because your wrist is supposed to be smaller. It's supposed to be dainty.
Yeah, it's a like effectively a cultural norm and fashion statement now that it's supposed to be smaller, and that's an interesting thing because one of the arguments I make for a smartwatch is that, and companies have already come out with these. Microsoft in particular has come out with a keyboard that works really, really well on a smartwatch, but let's be honest. I mean, if it has to be, if you're to fit in with the societal norms, not that I recommend anybody ever do that, fuck it. If you're a woman and you have a smaller wrist, or even if you're a guy and you want to wear a smaller one, whatever. How are you going to type on that? You can't. Like,
right.
If it's that small, that's problematic. So I think
unless it does a thing where it projects onto your arm. There's just some bracelets you can wear that will literally make your arm into like a, what's it called? Like a projector. Yeah. Like it projects it onto your skin.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that's definitely some next level shit. I could see that, kind of coming down the line. But I mean, I even remember when I was in the military, I mean, it's kind of funny. I mean, even women there would wear significantly smaller watches, when, frankly, a lot of them some of them had wrists that could match, a lot of the guys that I was in with. So there are some genuine issues. As toward the smartphone, you could carry around a big smartphone, and there's nothing
no problem.
It's totally gender neutral.
I got a big purse anyway, so
yeah, sure, right. It's almost more practical.
Yeah,
yeah. For a woman to have a large smartphone, so that's something I'll admit it. I hadn't really considered some of that because this is something. I mean, I want it now. Like I want, and I am ready to type because I don't type that much on my phone anyway. Like I really don't. I hate it. If I'm going to type, if I'm going to talk to somebody for that long, I want to be, in front of a laptop. So yeah, well, you raised a great point. Go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, about the typing thing, I don't think people would be doing a lot of typing on smartwatches. I think a lot of it would be done with voice commands because
Well, that's part of the, yeah. Well, I mean, that's why I think Google Assistant and Siri,
Right.
a lot of these things are still getting so pushed.
Yeah, I think like just like we saw with the flip phones that then morphed into the BlackBerry, where it had the keyboard, but it was like really small, and if you had fat fingers, it was difficult to type on a BlackBerry. And then we saw the elimination of. Then we saw those slide out phones where it could slide out the keyboard, and the keyboard was bigger because it was like the size of the whole phone.
Yeah.
And then we saw the keyboard just go away on phones altogether, and it was a touchscreen keyboard. Just like that, I think the next step in the evolution of being able to write text on a device like that is the smartwatch, which wouldn't even have a keyboard, even maybe a touchscreen keyboard. It would just be all done with voice commands, pretty much.
Sure, and I think that's part of the reason. I think you're definitely onto something with that. Is that this is certainly a direction that I think companies are considering pushing. I think this is why you have the Apple AirPods, which finally came out, by the way. Holy shit! And people think they're a disaster, but anyway, the AirPods where they're this. Just in your ear, a little bit of business.
Oh, they're headphones with no wires.
With no wires,
oh,
right? But
yeah.
It's all Bluetooth connected, but there's a ton of, for lack of a better term, there's a ton of technology inside there that cannot possibly just be about delivering audio or sending and receiving audio. There's a lot more in mind there, and part of that might be is that eventually they don't want you to interact with the keyboard at all. I think part of the reason that this is a direction happening is the very fact that Apple and now some Android companies, or companies that bank heavily on Android, are also removing the headphone jack. I mean, Apple started doing it because courage, woo. And then other companies are kind of following suit. And I think really that is all about just continually just like hammering away or chipping away at having an interface at all. So the watch, might eventually just be the brains behind, what you interact with that's plugged into your ear, via Bluetooth or something.
Direct Bluetooth link to your brain.
Oh, no. Don't do it, Sally.
Well, because I was thinking, like, if you get rid of a keyboard and everything has to be done by voice commands, that could be convenient in some ways, but it could also be really inconvenient because how many times
it's
are
not
you...
private either.
Exactly. It takes away all of your privacy. Right? And then also, like, how often are you in an environment where there's background noise and you can't really give voice commands very easily?
Yeah, well, So here's the thing. Like, I hate touchscreen keyboards. I get the advantages of them, but I don't think they outweigh. And I'm going to dive into this a little bit. Okay. The nice thing about a hardware keyboard was that one of the things that mobile devices have become big for is gaming. It's just a fact. Now the thing is that a lot of companies will want to port, say, their classic games. Like recently, Capcom ported its Mega Man games to Android, and for fuck's sake, they're $2 a piece. Do not buy them for the life of you. They are terrible.
Why?
Emulator.
Oh my god, $2.
Oh, it's bad. In fact, it's so great. The story on Android Police about these Mega Man games getting released, they said first off, you can't do it with touchscreen controls, because Mega Man. These are precision games that you play, and the frame rates are terrible. There's tons of skipping. But what was beautiful for me reading the story from Android Police is that the last couple chapters, they said, or the last couple paragraphs, they said, look, usually this is death for people to recommend, but this is the writer saying this. I'm telling you right now, you go download an emulator and you go download those games. I don't care how you do it. Do not give Capcom any money. In fact, they almost deserve getting their games illegally, quote unquote, illegally downloaded for the bullshit that they pushed onto mobile, onto Android. And I was like, I was cheering, I was clapping, I was like, fuck yes, finally, someone else is saying, no, look, stop these muprons, from pulling these stunts and just go out there and send the market signal of torrenting fucking everything of theirs. I was like, yes, that's the way to go, right? So anyway, gaming on mobile. Certain kinds of games, Fruit Ninja, maybe Endless Runners or something like that. Okay, fine. I get it. That can work. But when you're trying to play actual games, or when you're trying to do actual gaming where it requires a serious degree of skill, not just swiping on your screen, touchscreen controls are shit. The funny thing is that what used to be great, like on a BlackBerry or something, is you could put an emulator on there for, say, Nintendo or something, and you had
It was
solid
like it becomes
buttons.
a Game Boy.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
You had solid. I mean, you could, whatever keys you wanted, you could end up using, you would use them, and you could rock out a game. And that was really great. But here's the thing. Here's kind of the moral of that. And that is that there's a certain subset to where a lot of these, of having an interface, be it a hardware interface or being able to type on a smartwatch, perhaps, things like this. I mean, I wear a calculator watch. I'm used to typing on a watch. I've been typing on a watch since I can remember. Granted, only a few buttons, but still. The world is made for the average. Like, literally, the world is completely set up for average people. Like, if you are
Brian Sovryn is anything but average.
Damn right. And same to you, because
I do
you
tend
are
to fall
nothing but average.
outside of the norm on a lot of things.
But this is a huge, I mean, and I don't want to deep dive into this, okay? But this is a huge concept that people need to understand. Why do you get agitated with things? Why do you hate things? Especially, like, say, if you're a listener to this show, it's because the world does not cater to you in any fucking way, unless you want to hash out millions of dollars or something, right? The world caters to the average, and it runs on the idea of people being average. These companies count on you being an average schmo. All right?
And by virtue of that, they enforce the being average.
You're right.
They incentivize being average.
Right. So while there's a subset of people that would type on a watch, while there's a subset of people that would like hardware buttons on their fucking phone so that they could play mobile games and all that, the bottom line is that, nobody cares about you, because you're the specialist, or, you're the special case. And I get it. There's, the market, if there's only so many people that do this, then why would the market want to support it? Like, why? It'd be suicide for a company to make.
But maybe it would be an opportunity for a niche market.
Right, but and exactly, that's the response, is that, like, there's a niche market that you're not catering to. Now, maybe there'll be some catering with Android Wear 2.0, I don't know, and some companies are still making hardware keyboards. There's a new BlackBerry coming out. I mean, granted, it runs Android, okay, and it's not really from BlackBerry. I think TCL, which is the same company that makes the television we just got, which is a great fucking television. I wanted to talk about that.
Is it spying on us?
Spying on us?
Yeah, is our TV spying on us?
What do you mean?
Because that was like one of the
spying.
reasons we didn't have a TV. Like, could the speakers be turned into a microphone or something?
Oh, sure. I mean, it's connected to the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, potentially it could be. I don't, I wouldn't dare say. I mean, you don't have to, but you kind of have to set up a Roku account on it. We can talk about that more later.
Okay.
But my point being is that, I think there's perhaps a fiscal advantage that companies see in perpetuating the average, the average human, instead of in any way trying to, kind of maybe lift up or even, I mean, that's the thing. Like, all you got to do is have somebody cool, like, have fucking, I don't know, pick a name of anybody.
What do you mean?
Have T-Pain playing Asteroids on his watch. The next day, everybody's going to be fucking playing Asteroids on their watch. I mean, that's the thing, is that, there's marketing that could be done that could get people on board with some of these ideas, right? I mean, there's just, they have a plan, and they just love perpetuating the average. That's my opinion on how a lot of this stuff and why a lot of different technologies, work. I mean, I can't believe it's that much cheaper to not build in hardware switches to things. I mean, I really don't think so. And in fact, when everything just runs towards software and software only, I think that's a degree of engineering laziness that doesn't help, anybody. So anyway, do you have any last thoughts on that whole bit of business?
No.
Amazingly, we're 30 minutes in.
Wow.
And we've got a lot of stories to get into, but
let's move on then. Yeah.
All right. I want to talk this Bitcoin business. So again, Stephanie, of course, you are on Let's Talk Bitcoin, which is in many ways still the premier Bitcoin podcast out there. I mean, when anybody thinks, okay, I want to listen to a Bitcoin podcast, it's a pretty safe bet. They think of Let's Talk Bitcoin first.
It's been around for pretty much the longest out of.
Yeah, it was kind of the first.
Yeah,
kind of. I'm sure someone will bring up some example.
I guess there were a few other Bitcoin podcasts, but we're one of the longest running ones. I mean, we've been going since April 2013.
Yeah,
I mean 2017,
and it's quality content. So, Anyway, this story came out this week, and I want to talk about this just because it It is an update to something that I have mentioned on Sovryn Tech before. And there was a story that came out that Microsoft is now integrating Bitcoin into Excel. Excel 2017 in particular.
Wow.
Yeah. So
what do they mean by that, though?
Well, they mean that, what do you do with Excel?
Invoicing,
right. So,
and keeping track of my customers.
Exactly. So would having Bitcoin be like a built-in option into various, cells within Excel? Would that be advantageous?
Yes, that would be great for invoicing. Yeah.
Right. So that's why they're doing it.
Now, okay, but the reason I'm confused is because I can make an invoice right now in Excel that tells my customer to pay me with Bitcoin, but the way I have to do it is by selecting the currency as the Thai baht, which is just the symbol looks like Bitcoin, and so it has a little B, and then you can put the denomination in Bitcoin or whatever.
Right.
So it's labeled as Thai bahts, but it's really everybody knows is Bitcoin. So I heard something about them adding Bitcoin as like a currency in Excel. And they have a list of like hundreds of currencies right now from around the world. So is it that, or are they doing more different features like you can click a link and it'll open up your Bitcoin wallet from Excel, and other stuff like you can link to blockchain transactions, or
Probably
you can generate a
that.
QR code from an address or something? Or
I could see a lot of that coming down the pike. I mean, a big difference today is that now, Microsoft Office, which Excel is a part of, gets updated, on the regular. I mean, because now it's all Office 365, which is, for what you pay, is a great service. I'm not saying it's a great service when it comes to privacy, security, blah, blah, blah. I'm just saying for what it is, it's a great service. And so, I could see more features getting added in, but yeah, it's probably a larger, and this is what's interesting, is it's probably a larger play on Microsoft's part, to integrating Bitcoin more. Now, what's interesting about that is that, Microsoft was actually the first tech giant to even recognize that Bitcoin existed. And through the Microsoft Store and through, like the Xbox Store and all this different stuff, you could actually pay for things with Bitcoin. The thing is that over a year, they started that in 2015. Over 2016, it looked like they were backpedaling like there was no tomorrow. Like they were saying, suddenly it turned into not that you could pay directly with Bitcoin, and they worked with BitPay. In fact, it was an amazing story where they set it up like BitPay and Microsoft set it up in like 3 days. Once they decided they wanted to do it, they were sliding pizzas under the door and everything. It was quite the story.
I thought that was Coinbase and Overstock.
No, I mean, they might have done it that way too, but I'm fairly certain
it may have happened more than once.
Yeah, that Microsoft and BitPay, like it all happened very quickly. But anyway, later on in 2016, it turned into, oh no, actually all you can do is buy gift cards, with Bitcoin. And that's a pain in the ass, because you'd have to, if you wanted something that was only $9, you'd have to buy like a $10 or $15 gift card. And then there's just money floating around, in the Microsoft Store. What the fuck? So it looked a lot.
They love that.
What's that?
They love that.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. But I mean, it really, it looked like Microsoft was backpedaling a lot on their initial support of Bitcoin. And through 2016, I mean, admittedly, they were pushing a lot of different things. They were suddenly talking to, what was the company, Consensus, the Ethereum company. And they actually did their own, they called it Azure blockchain, which is, integrating blockchain with, Microsoft Azure, which is their big, server. Anyway, it's pretty much their cloud where they host a lot of the internet, frankly. And also, but this is like, I think they're confused, and I'm curious, maybe what you think about this, but I think they're very confused because one of the big things that they've pushed, and this is ironic, is Ethereum Classic. In fact, I half wonder just how much they're behind that and how much they're behind its viability itself. Because, I mean, my own opinion is that Ethereum is completely, like, it's unrecoverable, it's unsavable. After the DAO hack, it's done. I still think that's true. Even though, I mean, it can take things a while to die, but, a dead cat bounces twice, right? So, isn't that the old saying?
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. So, Anyway, so I kind of wonder like how much of Ethereum still being viable has to do with Microsoft being in the background, as far as all that goes. But I mean, what do you think? What are your thoughts? So I guess what I want to update on is that it seems like Microsoft is back into Bitcoin, and probably because they've dallianced with these other, various
Ethereum,
blockchain technologies.
And they realized that it was a joke, and now they're like, oh, Bitcoin's the actual real thing.
Exactly. Because otherwise, why not, especially, I mean, with smart contracts and all this stuff, I mean, like, why not integrate Ethereum? Why pussyfoot around it?
Yeah, because it's unstable.
Yeah. Why are they going with Bitcoin?
And it's not a good idea, and it's too complicated to be secure. So now they see Bitcoin, and they're like, oh, it's not Turing vulnerable, to borrow a phrase from our friend Justice Ranvier.
Yep.
Because they say, Ethereum is so-called Turing complete, but that's kind of framing the question when you could really just as easily say it's Turing vulnerable because it's got its complexity makes things less secure, and there's more ways to attack Ethereum. But whereas Bitcoin is, you can still do a lot in terms of coding smart contracts just with the Bitcoin based protocol itself. And you may not need all these bells and whistles in Ethereum that just make it less secure and enable it to do more things, but at the expense of security. So, I think that's totally a viable possibility that Microsoft was interested in cryptocurrency from Bitcoin in the initially, like in 2014 when Bitcoin did its big rise, they started accepting it, or maybe 2013 they started sort of accepting it for buying gift cards, and then they were like, oh well, there's way more to this whole cryptocurrency thing. What about this Bitcoin 2.0? We should jump on board with that because we missed the boat on Bitcoin. So then they get interested in Ethereum, and then they see Ethereum kind of crash and burn and do all these hard forks, and they're like, oh shit, well maybe we better go back to basics. Bitcoin seems like it's way more stable and secure, so why don't we see what we can do with that? And there's plenty you can do with just Bitcoin. So yeah, that makes total sense that they're doing exactly that. Yeah,
that's my take. Is that this is really just proof that the guys at Microsoft are saying, oh, wait a minute. These competitors, these Bitcoin 2.0 guys, are not worth our time.
Right.
This is not the future.
We haven't even got the 1.0 out of beta yet, technically.
Right. Yeah. Well, so, I mean, and also, keep in mind that once it gets baked into Excel, like Office is a complete package. Then it's going to start working with other things within Office, which could get very interesting, as well. And I mean, and that includes Outlook, which that could become a huge deal. I mean, imagine
sending
doing payments through
by
email.
Outlook. Oh my God, it has an integrated Bitcoin wallet or something.
Right, or through Skype.
Oh my God, that'd be so cool.
There's a lot of interesting things I think that could start happening, now that it's getting baked in officially, and it's the only one getting baked in officially into Office 365. I mean, yes, it's just Excel specifically right now, but that can grow. I mean, then it can go to their gaming channels. I mean, it can do all kinds of things. I mean, imagine if they're the first company that could have Cortana send somebody money with Bitcoin. I mean, wouldn't that be?
Oh, that'd be so cool.
Yeah, I mean,
frankly, I feel like they should already have that feature, but I mean, whatever. If it takes a few more years to appear, that's okay.
Maybe there's some way that can happen now, but for it to be like baked in, I think that could get really interesting.
Yeah. No, I mean, not saying that it could already happen now. I'm saying like they should have already gotten on this. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like Microsoft should have.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Microsoft's a very different company now, and I like the fact, to some degree, this gives me a bit of confidence because they're not the slow moving dinosaur anymore. They're realizing within like a year, we're playing for the wrong team here, and getting
they have
interested.
To compete with Apple Pay too.
Well, right. That's a whole other thing. Is that Microsoft Wallet hasn't exactly taken off because Windows 10 Mobile hasn't really taken off, and so what can we do as far as that goes? So yeah, I thought it was an interesting story. It's an update. Clearly, they have reversed their position. I think they were backpedaling away from it, and they were looking at other things. And they probably, for them, same thing that I saw. They probably saw what happened with the DAO, with the DAO, and that whole crack. Or whatever, or exploit. I don't know what we want to use.
Exploit is a good word.
Yeah, because it wasn't really theft. I mean, the person played within the rules of the DAO. So, I think they saw that and they said, no, we're not messing with this anymore. So good. Anyway, I think that's actually kind of a good story there. Not that I'm against. In fact, I'll ask this of you, Stephanie. I mean, I'm not against, quote unquote, altcoins or other cryptocurrencies. In fact, I'm very bullish on some of them. I think Zcash is an exciting, idea, and there's a lot of other ones. I mean, what do you think? How are you feel about altcoins today?
Yeah, I guess I do think there's some cool ideas being tested out in altcoins, and like maybe they're little sandboxes to try out some different ideas.
Sure.
But and I wouldn't call myself like a Bitcoin maximalist, but at the same time, like there's so much cool and interesting stuff in Bitcoin. Sometimes it just seems overwhelming and complicated to try to learn about all these different altcoins as well.
Sure. No, that's a totally fair answer. I think that's fine. But I'll tell you, if you do want to learn about all these other altcoins and, all these wallets and everything that's going on today, this is called a segue. I want you to go to cryptocompare.com, okay?
Yes.
Cryptocompare.com. This is a tab in my web browser that is open at all times, baby. Woo. I love cryptocompare.com. Especially Bitcoin's been on a bit of a rise as late. Which, by the way, if you didn't notice, CryptoCompare.com is actually a sponsor of Sovryn. That's why I'm doing this. I'm not just like schlepping a website to you, for no reason whatsoever. They care about the message that Sovryn sends out there, and they appreciate it. And I'm really honored by that to have them as a sponsor. But yeah, Bitcoin has been. I mean, what did it kiss 1,200? What was it? It
did just briefly, but then it went corrected a little bit.
Yeah. So here, I'll ask you this because you probably don't get to answer this. Well, anyway.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. I mean, do you think, and of course you want to go to cryptocompare.com to keep an eye on this and watch the trends and all that and get social with it. Do you think that, I've heard one speculation that Bitcoin could do 7,000 this year in 2017.
7,000? That's a little bit
by
bold.
the end of the year. What do you think?
Nope. I think 2,000 maybe.
You think 2,000?
Maybe. Yeah.
All right.
By the end of 2017.
All right. Friendly bet. I'm going to say it will exceed 7,000.
You think it's going to go over 7,000?
I'm of the so.
All right. How much are we betting?
So here,
Want to bet a Bitcoin?
If I'm right,
yeah,
that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
if you're right,
well, then it'll be a
it's not
painful
so bad,
lesson for me.
But so there was, speaking of predictions that I've made in the past, I am one of those who said, about 3 years ago that, look, in about 3 years, Bitcoin's going to do 10,000. There's no reason that it can't do 10,000. Now, I'm not the only person that's thought that. Even Bitcoin's detractors have admitted that at some point it could do 10,000. Of course, then they think it'll die. I don't think it'll die. I think it'll just keep going, or it might even steady out there. That's fine. Because the infrastructure is finally here. And I think if you read a lot of the Bitcoin news websites, you're really seeing that infrastructure is here, because there's not so much, at least I've noticed in the past few months.
Infrastructure, you're talking about companies that use Bitcoin, right?
Companies that use or develop for,
Yeah.
various different services and whatever else.
So I agree with that. However, the thing that tempers my opinion about where the price is going to go is the scaling debate has yet to resolve, and there's problems with Bitcoin scaling because now the blocks are filled up. They're filling up or filled up, and the transaction fees are rising.
Yep.
And there's still this problem where the block size is limited at 1 megabyte per block.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like there is a company that was relying on sort of Bitcoin microtransactions.
Okay.
That said it was basically suspending operations because they can't figure out like how to make their business model work.
You talking about ChangeTip?
No, I'm talking about Watch My Bit.
Oh, they're shutting down?
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
shit.
they're not shutting down, they're suspending operations. So Watch My Bit was a company that lets you pay little microtransactions, like I'm talking 5 cents, on the order of 5 cents worth of Bitcoin,
right,
to watch a video. And then it distributes the royalties from those videos to the content creators, and then also some to Watch My Bit itself, or it can send it to charity or whatever. So they have this technology that, you do micropayments and it gives you access to the video. But they basically said now their business model is there's a big problem with it because the transaction fees are going more on the order of 10 to 40 cents per transaction.
Right.
And so obviously if you're paying like 100% fee just to watch a video, then that's kind of going to cramp your style a little bit.
That's a great caution to bring up.
Yeah.
I'll raise you yours.network. Yours.network, which is being created by just a phenomenal guy, Ryan X. Charles, or he's a spearheader at it.
Yeah, he's cool.
That's kind of his main it's a social network kind of built around Bitcoin, around the technology of Bitcoin, but the secret sauce of it is that they are going to lick microtransactions. At least that's the claim.
But aren't they building sort of like a Lightning Network implementation kind of thing?
Right, but then that would be sort of the solution, right?
Right, yeah. So the Lightning Network is something that basically would sidestep the issue of transaction fees on the blockchain, on the Bitcoin blockchain, by doing these sort of off-chain transactions, basically.
Sure.
It's a solution when the Bitcoin, that doesn't require the Bitcoin block size to increase. But that doesn't exist yet.
Right. Oh, yeah. No, and they admit it, that they don't that they're working on it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a great problem to tackle, but it's not available yet for Watch My Bit or for other companies that were relying on Bitcoin microtransactions. So I just bring that up because not because I think it's going to
not being
kill
negative.
Bitcoin or anything like that, but it is, I think, sort of an impediment to Bitcoin's growth. Whereas, yes, the infrastructure is being developed in terms of companies and services that you use and develop for Bitcoin. But on the other hand, the scaling problem is holding it back.
Sure. No, I think that's, that's fair. But yeah, I think they might get this licked and then, I can see it, doing its thing. But very reasonable answer on your part. I think absolutely. Yeah,
it will. This will provide the impetus to get the problem solved.
Yeah. And,
one way or another.
Right. And to allow the value, I think really to hit that, to hit those all-time highs. So anyway, long done not announcing the sponsor. But so why don't we get into I think that was a fascinating bit of conversation there. So thank you for that. Why don't we get into one of our main stories this week? And I'm not doing any segments this week, so we're just going to run this baby right through, and we'll get right into the next story.
Slipper the big one.
Slipper the big one. Well, that's actually a great thing to mention. Well, I don't know if it's a great thing to mention, but talk about slipping the big one. This is from TechCrunch. This story. Why don't we break into it? And it's from January 4th, 2017. Oh My Bod, that's the name of a company, OHMI Bod, invites developers to make cyber-sexy apps for its sex toys. Ooh, what do we got here? I'm going to read the story, and I really want to hear what you have to say about a lot of this stuff.
Cool.
We'll break into this. Sex toy maker Oh My Bod just announced that the company is looking to open up its relationship with developers. Best known for its digitally connected vibrators, Oh My Bod will release an open SDK to accompany its latest line of devices this spring. The company notes that some creative apps could tie the company's line of sex toys into hookup apps like Tinder and Grindr, making for some far more interactive new ways to swipe right, or hashtag mask for mask.
Mask is like gay guys.
I'm glad I had you on.
Mask means masculine. So they want. So when gay guys say, "Oh, no femmes, I'm looking for a mask guy," they want like a masculine, like a straight appearing masculine looking guy.
Gotcha.
It's like when, for example, me, I like women, but I would say like femme for femme because I'm pretty femme, but I would want another femme looking woman. I'm not like as much into butch looking women or androgynous.
Right.
It's like a way of describing your type, basically.
Okay. Yeah, see, I am such a prude.
No, you're not. You're not a prude. You just don't go on Grindr,
No,
so I don't blame you for not knowing.
Nor Tinder.
Yeah, nor Tinder.
But that's another conversation. So anyway, I'll keep reading here. Oh My Bod founder Suki Dunham lays it out for us. Quote, imagine you're on a dating app and chatting with a potential partner, and they are, quote unquote, OMB enabled. For example, a pink dot on the screen that signifies a user is in an active state, much like Facebook Messenger, like I guess where there's that little green dot. If they are active, it means that they are connected to one of our Blue Motion vibes. And we'll describe what that is in a second. I mean, okay, so what they offer effectively like dildos and various things that you could slip into panties or something, or even stuff I think that you could, put around your cock if you wanted to, whatever. And it can all be controlled remotely. Like that's sort of the gist here. So reading on, the partner could accept an incoming request to take control of their vibrator while in a chat or video session. It allows for virtual intimate experiences without leaving the privacy of your own home. This concept reshapes the entire idea of virtual or digital foreplay, end quote. Read a little bit more here. We're inclined to agree that, yeah, if there's any developer interest, that could be pretty interesting. Of course, Oh My Bod is just one school of fish in the Cyberdildonics sea. There's not exactly an established platform for sex toy developers, so things remain pretty brand and device specific, at least until someone like Oh My Bod attracts devs to an awesome open standard that manufacturers team up on, or until all of our smart vibrators are hijacked into weird, sexy botnets, whichever comes first. Haha. Oh My Bod has been paving new paths for good old-fashioned cybersex for a while now. The company's trademark is its line of smart sex toys that allow remote users to connect, like the Blue Motion NEX1, which the wearer can slip inside their underwear to get sneaky sensations from their own paired device or from anyone else on their Wi-Fi with the companion app. Ooh.
What could go wrong?
It's not hard to imagine all kinds of interesting apps that could connect remote users to toys and to one another. With the advent of smart sex toys, virtual reality, and increasingly sophisticated haptic feedback, digital kink is entering a new era altogether. Oh My Bod's SDK will be available in late spring alongside, and of course this is for 2017, alongside the company's upgrades of its Blue Motion vibrators to Bluetooth Low Energy. In the meantime, developers can sign up to receive updates from the company about its forthcoming SDK. Anyway, the link for all this is in the show notes in case you want to. I know I have a large developer audience, and in case you want to start developing for this, personally, I can't think of much better to develop for. Rock and roll, baby. Go. Woo, do it. So now, Stephanie, I guess first, now, I mean, this is...
Oh, my God, so many thoughts about this.
I don't doubt it, and I want to hear them all. So do all the listeners, I guarantee you. Opening up a platform like that, creating an open SDK, this is how you get adoption. This is standard fare that lots of, in a bunch of different categories, subcategories, in markets that people do. This is how they get, people on board, and they become kind of a market leader, really, is when they have this open SDK. So that's a good thing. Just in practice, this is the right way to do business, for a tech company. And this is a genuine tech company, even though it's, sexual or Cyberdildonics, right? So, that I assume you would agree with that, like that this is a good thing to do overall.
From a business standpoint?
Just opening up the SDK.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Right. Okay. So, because some people are very much like, oh, no, keep it closed. Don't, otherwise this is going to allow people to, blow. Anyway.
Well, yeah, that's a pretty, controlling point of view.
Sure, right. So, but now in the abstract, like, do you think, because again, this is the first step into getting mass adoption, do you think that that Cyberdildonics in general, this idea of like remote, kind of what Oh My Bod is delivering here, do you think that this is the future? How do you feel about it being tied into Tinder and Grindr? How do you feel about it overall? Like, go ahead, give me the takes. I know you got a ton of thoughts.
I feel mixed about it overall.
Mixed, okay.
Yeah.
Tell me.
So one of the first things that comes up is I think conservatives should love this. Because there's so many boomers and conservatives that complain about, the kids, they're going on Tinder and Grindr and hooking up with each other, and STDs are on the rise, and everybody's just having casual sex and fucking all the time. Well, guess what? If people were to just masturbate together and maybe have the other person control their sex toy, instead of actually meeting up and bumping genitals together, it would actually do a lot to decrease the rates of STI transmission.
So this should be really popular with the CDC.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Government should sponsor it, in fact.
Catholics should go
just
nuts
totally
over this
kidding
one.
about that. I don't want government to sponsor anything. But,
right.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, actually, this could make safe sex more accessible. So you could get off with somebody but not actually have to swap fluids with them, which could result in STI transmission.
Very Demolition Man of you. Okay. you haven't seen that. We haven't watched that yet. It's a great movie with
so what do you
Sandra
mean by
Bullock.
That?
Well, so in that, like, it's in the future, and it's Sylvester Stallone's in it, Wesley Snipes, just a classic film, Jesse Ventura. In that, like, humans don't touch each other anymore. They just put on this headset, and it's like they're having sex. And Stallone and Sandra Bullock do it that way, and Stallone flips out. It's like, why did you break contact? He said, contact? I haven't even touched you yet. Because they're doing it all virtually. And it's all because that keeps people from transmitting, STIs.
Wow.
So that's why I say, this is definitely something people have theorized, about. It's like replacing sex actually, for the safety of the species after a fashion. But keep going, please.
Yeah, but I could see people really liking this if they feel like having sex, but they don't feel like actually going out and getting all dressed up and like, going out into the cold and spending money and getting a cab or whatever. You know, they can just do it from the comfort of their own home. And for long distance relationships, it's great.
Okay, so now I have a question for you. How do you feel about, because again, this is going to be, I mean, like, it's a good idea that, say, Tinder or Grindr has it to where you can be set for active, you know, that way there's consent. But, you know, how do you feel about it, like somebody potentially, say through Tinder or something, remotely, you know, giving you an orgasm? Or even if it's not through Tinder, it could just be through, it could be through any messaging app, you know, whatever. That's
the thing, because, so, not that I would be looking for guys on these websites, but if I were your average heterosexual woman, because let's be honest, that's who masturbates with vibrators usually is women, female bodied people, I would say, people with vulvas and clitorises and stuff.
Sure.
If I were one of those people and I was looking for a guy, I would not think the guy would know how to drive my vibrator better than I would. So what is the point of letting him drive it, you know?
Well, okay, how about this? What if, I mean, just, and you can have more problems than that, you know, of course. I'm just saying, what if you, like, were able to program a pattern? Like, you knew a set pattern that is going to get you off.
Then he's not controlling it, or she's not controlling it.
Right, but they are saying when to activate. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I have to say, okay, you can go ahead and activate it now, and then they flip the switch and turn it on.
No, right, yeah. That's what they said in the articles. Like, you have to be set for active or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, do you see this as something that people are going to take to? Is it something like that you?
If there's a video chat aspect involved, maybe, I don't know.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like maybe this would be something that would help women have more sex and feel safer having sex with more or less strangers. And because when you're a woman and you're looking for hookups, like, you have to be really careful that you don't get assaulted or kidnapped or raped or whatever, or the person completely misrepresents themselves, or you go halfway across town or whatever. And, like, I think women have good reasons to feel afraid when they're using hookup apps and be very cautious. But if you didn't have to leave your house, you know, you could just kind of have sort of sex with a stranger, but actually just be completely safe using your vibrator at home. Like, yeah, that would probably lower the threshold so that a lot more women would feel comfortable doing it than actually going out and meeting up with a random stranger for a hookup.
I could see people, men and women, okay, or, you know, Z, whatever. I could see people getting, like this could be the new notification, you know, like where they are walking somewhere in a city or something, and people are just like flipping, like, wow, you're hot, and you're just getting off on how hot everybody thinks you are. You know what I mean? Like, and you're getting the physical response.
Oh, there's a thing in your underwear?
Right. Yeah, that's how this would effectively work. I mean, these toys,
one of their toys
works within, you know, the underwear. And I could see people, like, this could really be, you know, this could be very kind of ego boosting or esteem boosting. I shouldn't say ego necessarily. I mean, what do you think about that? Do you think that's a possibility?
It would be fun, but you would have to have a lot of people who are all in on it and have the app or whatever.
I mean,
in
frankly,
the same place.
Like, I'd much rather have this. Maybe someone would create an app or an extension that would allow it to do this. I'd much rather get that than get, you know, a Red 1 or Red 20 on my Facebook, you know, fucking app, like, you know, to get my stroking.
But that's another thing. Like, you don't use a vibrator, and most people who have the genitalia that you do, penises, don't use vibrators. Is there going to be a masturbation sleeve or
I can
whatever,
picture
that kind of thing? And then how does it get controlled by someone else? I mean, like, that's kind of weird.
Well, again, it would work where you're active, and then it would have to be through, like, Tinder, you know, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like it would be hard to do both people at the same time. Like, you would kind of have to take turns, because it would probably be like, if you're driving someone else's sex toy, it probably takes a lot of concentration. It's almost like you're going down on them or something. You're completely paying attention to them, whereas it'd be hard to have your own at the same time. Focus on your own pleasure.
Well,
I mean, it would just be like a new way of having sex, and that's fun and exciting and interesting to try, and people should be able to try it, as when the technology gets there. But yeah, I don't know if it would exactly be for me. I would try it if there was a woman who was willing.
Well, all right.
But then that's the other thing. Like, there's always a potential for fraud in dating, whether you're talking about people meeting each other and then just lying about their age or whatever, or job, or how much money they make or whatever. And then when you get into online dating websites, they could be not even who they say they are. They could not look like their pictures. They could be using someone else's pictures.
Well,
they could be not the gender they say that they are,
Yeah, that's a problem with these networks and not Cyberdildonics. Right.
Yeah, it is, but don't you think you might feel a little bit more violated if someone else was driving your dildo who you didn't think they were?
Well, let's talk about this.
Okay.
So, yeah, I hear the concern that someone else is going to be, driving this thing, right? Again, okay, so the first thing I want to say is that I will admit, and I am not in any way claiming or denying that I'm any kind of hacker. But there's a big part of me, that if the whole world was wearing shit from Oh My Bod, like, that's a righteous hack I'd go for. Like, I would want to...
You would try to mess with people.
I would want to activate every single one on the planet, like, at the same time. It'd be like the fucking brown note on South Park, but instead it'd be the G note, maybe. But and here's the problem with that, though, is like...
It's non-consensual?
Right. That's effectively rape.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that.
Yep.
That's a huge concern here. Is that what happens? And I apologize for taking this into a dark turn. Okay. Now, granted, I wouldn't actually do that. That's kind of like, I guess maybe it's a degree of a fantasy.
Yeah,
in my
but somebody would want to do that. That's the problem.
Right. And I mean, what does this do to a young person? Not even just a young person, an older person. What does this do to a human that, say, has one of these, and maybe they set it up between, boyfriend and boyfriend, girlfriend and girlfriend, girlfriend and boyfriend, however the relationship works out, or maybe it's a triad, who knows. But someone, cracks it, and you find out, hey, that your partners didn't do it. Mm-hmm. Who did it, and what does that do to the mind? Like,
yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, if it does get hacked or whatever, and then also there's the concern about it being linked with the profile that you have on maybe a dating site that's personally identifiable information. It's going to have it's a device that's going to have some kind of unique identifier, an IP address. Yeah, and it's going to be linked to who you are to a certain extent.
Yep.
And so. I mean, that's creepy. Like, we talked on Sex and Science Hour about that. There was a so-called smart dildo or something, or vibrator, that would connect to an app, and you could unlock like extra patterns of vibration and stuff. Zzz, zzz, zzz,
Yeah.
You could unlock different patterns by downloading the app.
Right.
But the problem was that the app was sending data back to the company that made the app and the dildo about like when you were using it, and then it also included like your email address, which that's getting a little bit personal, don't you think? I mean,
absolutely. I mean, right. And this is the thing, is that any of these, even if it's just connected through Bluetooth or something, it's another potential gateway to all of your other information, to your entire life, digital or otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think what a lot of people are going to simply say is that, well, don't wear the thing all the time. But the way that they're marketing this is that they do want you wearing it all the time. Again, this is something that you're going to be, because you're always on Tinder, right? I mean, I don't use Tinder, so I don't exactly know. But my understanding is that people
you can get a notification or a match like any time.
Right. And so if you set things up, I mean, maybe people they'll get tired of it. If this actually becomes a thing, maybe they'll be like, yeah, I'm not leaving my profile as active to where, that you can activate my, what's in my pants. But I don't know. On the flip side, though, like where this really gets exciting for me is virtual reality and, well, what they've been talking about, cybersex. Mm-hmm. This gets exciting for long distance relationships. Not just, I mean, maybe just with, friends with benefits or something. Like, I think that could get really fucking cool, to where what you're typing out, Like you could have keywords perhaps in a chat, you know, or what you're typing out, the Oh My Bod device will end up starting doing, right? Or simulating. And I think that's awesome. Or with VR, I mean, I'll admit it. One of the big things that excites me about virtual reality, I mean, there's really only there's three things that I want. One of them being, you know, trying to heal from traumas, you know, like the psych
therapy,
the therapy
applications,
exactly. The therapy applications I think are very exciting. But the other two, one is that I want to watch movies like I'm in a theater in the 1980s, and the other is, you know, like games aren't even a part of it. The other is that I want to be able to interact with people, you know, like in a virtual community, but I want to be able to interact with them as far as, hey, let's stoop, right? You know, and long distance or whatever. I mean, if there's virtual orgies going on, I mean, who the hell knows, right? How that turns out. Okay. So this is one of those technologies that could really make that a far more viable, you know, thing to happen. So I really do agree with all of the dangers that you laid out and some of the ones I brought up as well. But at the same time, like I can see some awesome applications for this stuff.
Yeah. I see good and bad sides to it too, and mostly good. Like
same here,
more good than bad.
Yeah,
like
just the bad can be really bad. That's the problem, I think.
Yeah, I'm net positive on this. But you know, one more bad thing that I wanted to mention though is like, there's a part of me that's saying, like, yes, I know this is going to be a new way of having sex, and this is going to be a new like sexual skill that's different than anything we've known before. But part of me is saying, like, okay, you can maybe learn how to drive a vibrator, but does that really make you good at sex? Are you actually adding anything to your sexual repertoire that's really valuable?
Yeah, not at all.
I feel like, no, you're not. Like, you're turning a machine on and off.
Right.
And it's not really, like, doesn't really require any skill. And you might think that you're, like, good at sex. People, like, I could just picture dudes getting these overinflated egos because they can turn a vibrator on and make a woman orgasm, you know, and think that they did the work or something, you know, and then the woman's like, oh, wow, I orgasmed. Let's meet up and have sex. And then they're terrible in bed because they don't know how to actually drive a person's vulva or whatever, you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's an interesting point. I mean, again, everything, you know, there's kind of a fetish for everything, right? Like, I think a lot of people say, well, this is how we get to the future where nobody's having babies anymore. That future is, we've talked about this on Sex and Science R2. Look, that future's never going to happen.
No.
Okay, because there's always going to be people who are going to want to have fucking babies.
Totally.
There are always going to be people
who are going to want the real thing.
Yeah, there's going to be people that fetishize, you know, the real thing, right? And you could quibble over the word fetish, you know, for that, but you get my point. But just to show that this is really a thing up and coming, there was actually a story in TechCrunch where just for 2016, Pornhub, they just added their VR porn section in April of 2016, and they're claiming now that they have already had 38 million searches for VR porn.
Wow.
And they only have like 1,800 videos. So, you know, do the math on that.
Wow.
There's a lot of people looking for VR fucking porn.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm sure they want that next level of, you know, of that whole action. In fact, go ahead.
I was just thinking, I wonder, one of the great things I think about VR sex is that it may take the pressure off sex workers and, you know, let them not have to do work that they don't want to do.
I think it can make a lot of that less dangerous, yeah.
Yeah. And also, so there could be sex work applications for this teledildonics thing as well.
Sure.
You know, where people could safely engage in sex work where they wouldn't have to actually meet up with a person. And so, therefore, it makes it safer.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, this could definitely take the cam world, you know, to a whole new level.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I feel like to have really good sex in this way that involves remotely controlling a sex toy device, you would have to incorporate other stuff in it, like perhaps a phone call, a video call, a erotic chat with a story, a movie that goes along with it. Or, I don't know, just a lot of teasing, perhaps.
Well, I mean, I think that's why they're opening up the SDK.
Yeah.
You know, and putting it out there so that it can get attached to other apps that can do all these other things. And you're right. And this is another thing, too, is that I could see some really, I think if it's anything, my personal opinion for the future is that this is not going to be that popular on Tinder. It's not going to be that popular, Grindr or whatever. Okay. Because I think it'll be a gimmick and people will get tired of it, soon enough.
It probably will be a gimmick.
Right.
Yeah.
The only way it's really going to take off is that there are going to have to be kind of curators of cyberdildonic, applications and of implementations. More important, not applications that could be confused when I'm just talking about apps, which I'm not. Cybersex itself, in my opinion, requires. Cybersex can be some of the best sex you'll ever have, like straight up, because it's all mental. And you can do anything, right? Like the sky's the limit. It's whatever you can type. But that's the thing. For cybersex to really be great, for it to be something worthwhile doing, in my opinion, outside of, good old fashioned hanky panky, the wild mambo, the hunka chunka, is
hunka chunka,
horizontal polka, is you got to be creative. You got to have that ability to really like make something and really flesh it out. Mm-hmm. No pun intended.
As always, even if you're using a toy in person with a partner.
You're right.
You have to be creative.
Right. So I think for this to really take off, you're still going to have to, people are still going to have to be really fucking good in a different way, but you've got to have kind of something special. So, I could see whole businesses getting built around this. I mean, where people create these, like, I think one of the more interesting ones they're all interesting, but one of the more interesting ones that you mentioned was like an interactive erotic fiction of some kind, that you could play through and you could feel it as you go through it. I mean, like, I could even see this becoming a thing in the video game world, after a fashion. How
about we hook this up to one of my audiobooks? And...
yeah. So anyway, this is coming again, no pun intended. And yeah, so I mean, and that's interesting to hear, Stephanie, that like me, you feel this is a net positive.
Yeah, mostly good. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, it's going to be a thing, and I think the applications, the implementations, are vast. From IRC to VR. I mean, it's going to be all over the place. So anyway. Did you have any other comments you wanted to make on that whole thing?
No, just that I kind of want to try it.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you.
Will you volunteer?
Absolutely. We can try this stuff out. I'm not one for I'm really not one for male toys whatsoever. But if whatever they have for male toys, I'll give it a shot.
Cool.
And see what's up.
All right, you hear that? What's the name of the company? Oh My Bod.
Oh My Bod.
All right, you hear that? Oh My Bod. You got some beta testers.
They could be a sponsor. I'm going to contact them to be a sponsor for Sovryn Tech. This is right up their fucking alley.
And then it'll be Patreon only content when we record.
Oh yes. Oh, that's gonna get hot.
So you might as well join the Patreon now.
Do it now. Just go to sovryntech.com, SOVRYN, and for at least $1 a month. Though again, most people do significantly more. Just got one today that was for $5 a month, and which is just fantastic. So anyway, let's move into another story. I can't believe we're an hour and 13 in. Time flies when you're having fun, I guess. So I don't know if we're going to get to all the stories that I had lined up, but one of them was I had to do seasteading, and I don't really.
Oh, that's interesting. Maybe we could do it as a bonus or something.
Yeah, some other time. We'll see. So anyway, I want to get into this is what I consider to be actually a really interesting subject, and I actually have a video that I want to play, audio. It's not, obviously you can't see the video, but it's from a video. And this has to do with the calendar. Now, Patreon listeners, speaking of them, might have heard me talk a little bit about this when I did a Patreon special last week, which was the hidden history of Christmas, which I've gotten tremendous response for. People just went apeshit over it. Which
I still have to listen to that one. I really wanted to hear it.
Yeah, I love getting to put on my historian cap. So I mentioned it there, and this is a subject that, I complain about some things, like that base 10 math maybe isn't the best thing. Maybe base 12 math is the way to go. Or that English is just a terribly shitty language. We should either be rocking E prime or maybe even French, or something like this. And not recently, it's something I've heard about before, but it's something that people seem to have started to get interested in again, is this concept called the Holocene calendar. Okay, and it's HOLOCENE And it's an idea that's actually from the 90s. Like this has been around for a little while.
Yeah, I think I've heard it. Yeah, back a long time ago.
Yeah. It's been talked about, and people will kind of banty back and forth as far as when is the start date of this. But just, enough of me talking about it to give you an idea of the concept. I found this fascinating audio that covers it because they're trying to actually make this calendar really a thing, which honestly I support. So let's hit up the video. We'll be right back.
Humans have existed for millions of years as part of nature. But then something changed, and in an incredibly short amount of time, we terraformed this planet and designed it to fit our needs. As far as we know, we're the first beings to awaken and completely take over a planet. The transition from hunting and gathering to farming and building was so breathtakingly fast that many of our ways of thinking about the world are no longer useful. One of our most outdated ideas is that the most commonly used calendar in the world insists that we live in the year 2016. This distorts our view of our own history and makes it harder to understand who we are as a species, and just how far we've come in an incredibly short amount of time. So maybe it's time to choose a year zero for humanity. A year zero that truly represents us as a species and includes all cultures. A year zero that marks when we began building our own world on top of the old one. "12,000 years ago, hundreds of humans came together in the hills of southern Anatolia. They were hunters and gatherers without knowledge of agriculture or metalworking. All they had were tools made of stone and wood. But they built humanity's first big construction project, 7,000 years before the pyramids were built in Egypt. Spread over 300 meters, our ancestors erected circles of massive stone pillars, each of them up to 6 meters high and 40 tons in weight. Decorated with artful pictograms and stone carvings of animals and mythical creatures. We have no idea how they were able to do this. It was probably a project of epic scale for the Stone Age, requiring a level of organization we didn't know early humans were capable of until we found this site. So, why did they build it? The most popular theory is that this was the first temple of humanity, dedicated to long-forgotten gods. We only know that this construction project, the first of its kind, marks the beginning of a new era. It's in this area, around that time, that humans truly began to build their own world, which would make it a fitting milestone in our history for the start of our calendar. This moment in time is so distinct that scientist Cesare Emiliani proposed that humanity should switch to what he called the Holocene calendar by adding 10,000 years to our current Gregorian calendar. We don't need to change our well-established days and months, and religious calendars could stay the same as well. But for all official purposes, our current year would be the year 12,016 of the human era. This would drastically alter how we think about history and how it feels. Let's take a very brief look and move through our new history from our new year zero. 12,000 years ago saw the beginning of the first construction project, kicking off our history. It would be in use for about 2,000 years. It took nearly a millennium until Jericho, probably the first city on Earth, was founded in the year 1000 after the start of the human era. Progress was still very, very slow at this point. Over the next 1,000 years, more and more permanent settlements appeared around the world, and more plants and animals were domesticated as agriculture spread. Evidence for trade over thousands of kilometers has been found from this period. Around 5 million humans were alive at this point in history, fewer than live in London today. Technology advanced constantly at a slow pace. Pottery became widespread. The first cultural communities appeared in China, India, and the Fertile Crescent. Around the year 4000, 8,000 years ago from today, humans started to use metal for the first time, learning to mix tin and copper and kickstarting what we know as the Bronze Age around the year 5000. The first proto-writing emerged and the wheel was invented. In South America, the Chinchorro culture started to artificially mummify humans 2,000 years earlier than in ancient Egypt. The first high cultures began emerging around the year 7000. The Indus Valley Civilization, ancient Egypt, the Minoans in Greece, and the Sumerians in Mesopotamia. Stonehenge was built in Britain, and the first dynasty in China began. Ötzi the Iceman lived around this time. What we consider history now started, and things began picking up pace as the world population rose to over 30 million. A number of new high cultures appeared around the world, many writing down their legends. More and more cities were founded. In South America, the Olmec culture emerged. Around this time, the legendary Siege of Troy is supposed to have happened. Soon after, in the eastern Mediterranean and the Fertile Crescent, the Bronze Age ended in violence. Every Bronze Age culture, except Egypt, was destroyed by mysterious invaders. Writing and progress froze for hundreds of years. Around the year 9500, what we consider Western culture began. The Greek city-states beat off the Persian invasion and triggered their golden era, ended by Alexander the Great around 9700. 100 years later, Rome destroyed Carthage and became a dominant force in the world. Caesar was murdered in the year 9956, while the world population had risen to about 300 million people. And it's only now, around the year 10,000, that we've reached the point where the Gregorian calendar and our current method of marking human history begins. A mere 2,000 years from now, humans will walk on the moon. If we think about history as we do now, we are underplaying 10,000 years of human progress and development. Including all of it in our calendar makes our past more impressive. It shows how progress became exponential with time, and it incorporates all humans from all cultures into our calendar. A new year zero for our history could reframe how we think of ourselves. As a building project that started 12,000 years ago, when for the first time our ancestors came together to carve a temple out of bedrock with tools made of stone, not knowing what they would set in motion, where it would lead us as a species. From building the first temple to ships flying beyond the sky.
And that pretty much wraps up the video.
Cool.
I mean, a fascinating, or the audio, I guess I should say. I did put a link in the show notes for episode 207 if you want to watch the entire video, and there's a little bit more, because again, they actually made one of these calendars that you can buy, but I didn't include that here. So I guess, Stephanie, right out of the gate, well, all right, first I should give a little bit of background. Okay, what is this temple that they're talking about that was built? The temple is in Turkey, which is what they were describing, and that's Göbekli Tepe. Yes, Göbekli Tepe, which is an anomaly in archaeology, because there wasn't supposed to be history that old, or there wasn't supposed to be human history that's like in any way. There wasn't supposed to be anything like that at the time. So it's kind of a mystery as what the fuck is Göbekli. Why am I having such a hard time with that word?
Göbekli Tepe.
Göbekli Tepe. Why? Yeah. What is this?
You haven't
thing?
been watching enough Ancient Aliens, I guess.
Oh,
I mean,
shit.
that's
Only every
obviously the
episode.
problem.
Yeah. So it's an interesting start date to run with. But if people were wondering what temple, and you can go and read about it, and it is a fascinating history around that, because again, it stands against all of the archaeological books that you could find, and even anthropological books that say, oh no, everything started 5,000 to 7,000 years ago, be it in Sumer or the Minoans or something like that. Everything started in Iraq with the Uruk. That's sort of the popular narrative that goes around. But Göbekli Tepe just wipes all that, no, you're wrong. This goes back 12,000 years at least. Mm-hmm. So
some people say it's more like 14,000 years.
Yeah, more like 14,000. I mean, and as far as like with history, there's other anomalies out there too. There's the idea that there's actually gold mines that go back over 100,000 years.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of this stuff. So, but starting off with something that stands, that we know of, that we can, really see, okay, no, humans fucking crafted this. Göbekli Tepe is a great choice to, really, in my opinion, to start with.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess
it survived because it got buried, right?
Yeah.
Like, wasn't it buried under sand or something?
And it was intentionally buried. That's another thing people don't like to talk about.
Yeah, right. Like, how did it get buried? Right.
Yeah, like it was being preserved on purpose. For what purpose? Who the fuck knows? But that's a whole other conversation. So, but I mean, what do you think about this idea, the Holocene calendar, or the human era, the HE? That's what they would do, is that instead of it being BCE or CE or BC or AD, it would just be HE, and that's it. And you'd be counting up, from 12,000 years ago, you just start counting it, because before that, everything else is prehistory. So you don't really necessarily need a date on it. I'm sure they'd have to come up with something. You'd have to say, I don't know how exactly you'd register that. Maybe you would just say the amount of years. I think that's what they do.
Before Holocene era?
BHE. Yeah.
Or PH, prehistory.
I mean, when you get into those time frames, usually there isn't, they don't give you an actual...
They don't give you an actual year. They give you millions of years before,
they'll just
whatever.
say 65
and at that point, does
ago.
Another extra 10,000 years really matter that much? Not really.
Well, in the grand scheme, of course.
No.
But for humanity, I mean, what do you think about the premise that this connects us?
I love it. Anything that gets outside. I mean, because the current paradigm is based on Christianity.
Yes.
It's demarcating
James Ussher's work. Absolutely.
When Jesus was born as the beginning of fucking time.
Which it's even the wrong date, but yes.
Right. And that's just such a Christian-centric worldview. It's totally true. There is at least another 10,000 years of human history before that that's just as significant as Christianity. Why should we start when Jesus was born?
Right.
I mean, and they say BCE as before Common Era, but it's really before Christ. It used to be BC, which is before Christ.
Right.
So that's my activism.
No, sure.
Can we get away from this totally Christian-centric worldview and have more of a human-centric one?
Yeah, certainly BCE and CE were an attempt at that, but then it's still using that break, and it's
right.
just so they didn't have to rewrite
You can
a bunch
call
of
it
books.
Common Era, but everybody knows it's Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, that's the concern. That's why they did the BC and the CE, is so that, again, they wouldn't have to rewrite the books so much and all this, and they wouldn't have to change all these different diagrams and everything. Look, fucking burn them all. Well, don't burn books, but you know what I mean?
If you're gonna
if
you're gonna rewrite it from BC to BCE, you might as well put a 1 in front of the year and add another 10,000 years. I mean, that's just really convenient.
Yeah,
it's perfect.
Right. I think it's fantastic. I mean, and it actually it sounds cool, for one. I think to say it's the year, what would that chalk up? It's the year 12,017.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. Kind of reminds me of Dune. It's the year 10,191. And, the universe is run by the Padishah Emperor.
and yet they're still telling time in terms of Jesus.
Yeah. So, but, so much, not that you need to rewrite history, but we've learned so much. And this isn't the days, this isn't the 19th century. This isn't the days of E.A. Wallace Budge, who obviously didn't write all those 70 books in his fucking lifetime. I mean, because these things are massive tomes. And a lot of the stuff that he wrote about is proven wrong now. Well, all right, maybe he wrote them. I've argued back and forth on that, but that's besides the point.
You know what it reminds me of? So the Chinese calendar goes back, 5,000 or 6,000 years. The Jewish calendar, the Hebrew calendar, goes back 6,000 something years.
Yeah, we're in the year 5,777 right now.
Yeah.
In the Jewish calendar.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and then the Western culture calendar starts at 2000, 2000 years ago, 2017 years ago. So it reminds me of when there's the Gap or Levi's established 1969, where they have it on the buttons of the jeans, where they've been around since 1969, and so they know fashion. Well, it's then some other new jeans brand opens up in 2012 or something, and they're established 2016, and it's oh, okay, you haven't been around that long. That's what the Western calendar feels like to me. It's established 2,000 years ago, whereas the Chinese calendar and the Hebrew calendar is oh, we've got double that much time under our belt.
Well, and it makes me wonder, because is this part of the recipe, say, that has given Judaism its longevity? because the ideas have been able to get passed down because the timeline, like the cultural timeline for Judaism, isn't broken up in half somewhere. Like I almost wonder if this wasn't some kind of trick by, say, the Catholic Church or something, or however this ended up getting sliced up.
Right. Just ignore everything before this point because it's not really that important anyway.
Yeah. Well, right. Well, it's confusing as shit because you have to count backwards.
Right.
And
I know.
and
I
like
never
people...
understood that when they said, "Oh, this person lived from the year 99 to the year 20 BC," and I'm like, "What? Wait, that doesn't make sense. Is he aging in reverse? Oh no, it's BC, right?" Yeah.
I mean, this is what in a lot of science fiction that you read, like if you read like Legend of Galactic Heroes, or even like the Foundation series by Isaac Asimov and all this stuff. Like what they do is, these huge empires, and emphasis on the word empire as in not a good thing, they restart the calendar. They create a year zero for when this empire comes into power because it's absolutely a tyrannical mental trick to make you forget about everything before this time. And I could totally see Christianity, saying you are going to forget about everything before Christ.
They would love that, yeah.
Yeah,
and they've been successful so far because
people
use the Christian calendar.
People. Right.
I mean, like, why don't we just call it the Christian calendar? Because that's what it is.
Sure,
it's based on Christ.
Yeah. I mean, the monthly calendars you can say are something else, but the years.
But that's like, isn't that even like a Roman thing? The Gregorian calendar?
Yeah, the Julian and Gregorian calendars. Yeah, which they borrowed from. Well, anyway, yeah. So, I think this is really cool. I think this is something I would love to push. I would love to, when I'm on Sovryn Tech, I would love to be the guy saying it's the year, 12,017.
Yeah, why don't we just start doing it?
Yeah, maybe
I
will.
If it catches on.
Maybe that's what I'll. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe that's what I'll do. Because and there's so many other things that are really, really interesting about this. And also, I want to just take a second. I want to give kudos to the video for saying 12,000, or for saying humans. That it says as far as we know, are the first to awaken. Meaning to reach sapience. But I like that they said as far as we know. I was like, there you go. Like that's the whole attitude of this calendar.
Yeah.
Is that, we're going to concentrate this on this segment. Like we're questioning all of these cultural norms, which, I mean, even just saying, as far as we know, humans are the first to awaken on this planet. That's questioning a lot. And that's good. It's a great question to ask, I mean, I would argue, just on a personal level with scant evidence, I would argue that human history may go back a lot longer. I bring this up all the time, but it's because it's the easiest case to bring up. Is you have fragments of a book by a guy named Berosus, okay, who's from the ancient world, from Greece, Rome, all that good stuff, and the fragments go back, reference a 3-volume book effectively that goes back 100,000 years in human history. What
was in that book?
Right, exactly, yeah.
We won't know because the Christians burned it. And then they somehow got the calendar, too.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, boy, you could get a conspiracy theories with that.
Right?
It's like, wait a minute, it's like, we got to create a new calendar, we better burn the place with all the calendars.
Yeah, what did they not want people to know?
Lit up Pergamum and Alexandria. Yeah, right. So, I mean, and granted, it was zealots kind of across the board. I think there was more than one religion involved in that. But bottom line, I love this. I think that this is the right kind of. Our culture
perspective?
Our culture is so fucked up, and we really are so detached from our history. And you can't, and just the simple fact, again, of just having to count backwards and all that, it can be really, really, I think it can be genuinely confusing for people when it just doesn't have to be. And they don't want to take the time, and I understand, they don't want to take the time, to understand the kind of the calendar in that way. So to connect us as a human whole, and really also...
I think if I had learned that in school, the Holocene calendar, I would have understood so much better, like the timeline of human history.
Yeah, because you'd be able to instantly say, oh, well, that was, then the pyramids were made, 5,000 or 4,500 years ago or whatever. Like you'd be able to just say that instantly. And I think also there is, and this is where people might get a little offended, but there is sort of a cultural advantage here, I think, in that we really are running off as being kind of cultural Christians, and I think we do that to our detriment, and in a million ways. And so to really be and this, like I said, this is where people are going to get mad, to get inclusive of other cultures. Multiculturalism. Oh man, everybody just shat their pants. To be inclusive in that way.
Mine are still dry. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, right, yeah, mine too. But to recognize these achievements by humanity overall, I think would be a huge leap in understanding and in going forward. In being in tolerance and perhaps even, thinking towards freedom and all this. I think this is bigger than people realize. They think it's just a fucking calendar. No, it's really not. Because if it's just a fucking calendar, then tell me what year, that proto writing started in Sumer. Do you know? No. Like the average person? Probably not. Well, it's about 3000 BCE, if you're going to count it this way. You know what I mean? And it's where I think, like you were saying, in school, you could have more easily, maybe like understood history, counted history back and, and grasped where it took place in your life. If they were running with a calendar, much like the human era or, the Holocene calendar or whatever. So, I mean, do you have any other thoughts on it?
No, I think we covered it. I mean, let's just start putting a 1 in front of the date. Hell, let's see what happens. Yeah.
Why not? I'm completely with you on that. Starting next episode, maybe when I do the new intros, I'll make sure that it mentions the year in HE. And I think it's really cool, and it's a big part of that. Recently you and I have been on a show that on the School Sucks podcast, which Brett Venat, he's been a guest on Sovryn Tech in the past, good friend. And, we were kind of talking about some of this cultural stuff and everything. And, me personally, and kind of one of my main goals when I was appearing on that, with you recently on that show was, to just kind of say, look, left, right, this whole left, right political paradigm and all that, like they're all shit. It's all crap. And we really need to be building something new, something kind of organic and something that's, perhaps not so favoring of certain geographic areas that have there's no need for them to be favored in any way, shape, or form. And I think this is one of those steps towards doing that, in just my own personal opinion. What do you think, Stephanie? You don't have to agree. We're individuals here.
I don't know, but yeah, it's cool. It just sounds cool. I want to do it. I'm sold. Right. I'm sold already.
There we go. So anyway, let's see. We've got 136. I don't know. All right. Yeah. Let's, all right. I was debating on what story I want to get into. We're going to talk about, let's get into a little bit of, Internet of shit or Internet
fun.
Of Targets.
Yeah, let's do it. That sounds
and
great.
then we got a climax that I think will be very enjoyable. Well, what is that face?
That's my climax face.
I love it. So let's get into the story. It's from USA Today, and actually a very special person sent this story to me, and I just want her to know that I really appreciate her and just tremendous. So it's Mattel's Aristotle. Boy, speaking of history, Aristotle is like an Amazon Echo for kids. And this is from,
shit.
Yeah, this is from January 3rd, 2017. So why don't I just start reading here? Las Vegas. Your infant this is because the reason it said Las Vegas is this is coming out of CES. Your infant starts crying, and instantly the room's baby monitor snaps into action. The lights come on. A soothing lullaby begins playing. Mom and Dad get notifications on their smartphones. That's just one of the scenarios Mattel sketched out for Aristotle by Nabby, a $299 voice-controlled smart baby monitor that the toy maker is announcing at the Consumer Electronics Show.
You hear that sound?
That's a facepalm.
That's a facepalm.
With a major assist from Microsoft and Qualcomm, Mattel is using artificial intelligence, natural language interactions, and Internet of Things technologies to create a cloud-connected platform for Junior's nursery. Aristotle goes on sale in June. Now, real quick, Mattel as in the toy company Mattel, so in case you missed that. And they are calling this Aristotle. From Amazon's Alexa to the obedient helper inside Google Home, chatty AI-powered digital assistants have been steadily gaining a more prominent voice in kitchens, dens, and living rooms across the country. All right, hold on. how many people have a fucking den anymore?
I don't think I have one.
Yeah, right. We just recently talked about like converting a room to one, I guess, but who the hell has that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, but given ongoing privacy concerns surrounding the hackability of IoT devices, it remains to be seen whether kid-first digital assistance will be embraced by parents who understandably may view them as creepy intruders. That's precisely why Mattel Senior Vice President and Chief Products Officer Rob Fujioka is stressing the security and privacy protections built into Aristotle, which he compares to an Amazon Echo, Philips Hue light bulb, and Dropcam security camera all in one. All right, I'm going to stop right there. Why in the fuck would you want an Amazon Echo, a Philips Hue light bulb, and a Dropcam security camera built into one goddamn device? That's asking for so much trouble.
Well, why not, Brian? What could go wrong? I mean, it's for the children. It's for the children.
It's for the children. You know, all right. I invented a fallacy. I forget exactly what I called it, but I think I called it the child protection fallacy, the CPF instead of CPS. And this is, making an argument from just like, using like the idea of protecting your child to somehow
justify an idea.
Yeah, justify your own ideas, your own prejudices, your own.
Yeah, because who wants to seem like they're not interested in protecting children? I mean,
right.
Everybody wants to be protective of children.
Right, but understand that like governments exist completely on the child protection fallacy. Like that we need to protect you from out there, right?
There's been a lot of bad shit that's been justified in the name of saving the children.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I mean, terrible shit. I'm sure Hitler used it, which, I just lost the
Hitler
argument. I mentioned Hitler. Yeah. But anyway, I'm going to read a little bit more here. The voice-controlled Aristotle Hub bundle consists of a Bluetooth and Wi-Fi direct speaker with multicolored LED lights and Wi-Fi camera with object recognition. The company is employing 256-bit encryption through the cloud and complying with COPPA, the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, which claims to protect the privacy of children under 13.
It's protecting the children. It's full of child protection.
Yeah, and we might have talked about COPPA on Sovereign Tech. I can only imagine the steamrolling of human liberties done in the name of that fucking act.
Yeah.
And please understand, like, I get it. Children, parents need to be stewards. They need to protect their kids. Mm-hmm. Okay. But, Google doesn't need to be doing that. Mattel doesn't need to be fucking doing that. All right. That's for parents, and the government sure as hell doesn't need to be doing it. That's for parents to do. Reading a little more here. Though Aristotle is designed as an all-in-one solution, the product is compatible with products built around the Samsung SmartThings, Philips Hue, Wink, Zigbee, and Amazon ecosystems. Aristotle is meant to work with both parents and kids, so the system might detect when a child is low on diapers and let mom or dad order a fresh supply by voice, fulfilled by such retailers as Babies R Us, Target, and Amazon. Now, Stephanie, what problems are you seeing with that right there, with a lot of that?
So wait, the kid can kind of order stuff?
More the parent can, though maybe the kid can, but I'm going to save that for next week's story.
Oh, yeah, because I heard about that happening.
Yeah.
So there's a case. You'll talk about it next time. But
yeah.
So
this connects with other IoT devices. It works with SmartThings. It works with other infrastructures, IoT infrastructures.
Uh-huh.
And
it buys things for you.
And it buys things through entire other companies, Babies R Us, Target, and Amazon, which are not all part of Mattel. They are completely separate companies. So, I mean, what potential problem are you seeing here?
Like data's about you and your baby is going to all of those companies.
And all of those companies get to use the fucking Aristotle as a gateway.
As an advertisement for you.
Or as an advertisement.
And you pay for the privilege.
Right. Or it's a, gigantic security exploit gateway. I mean, yeah, exactly. Like, actually, it's spreading out is massively problematic. In this case, well, I think it's that kind of true for just about anything, even though, like we talked about earlier, opening up SDKs is a good thing. But usually those SDKs are getting opened up to go to some home, as to where there are so many degrees of separation. Like,
yeah.
I mean, this is really terrifying.
Yeah, it's definitely like your first step toward making sure that your kid never has any privacy as a person ever in their life, because they've been completely recorded all over the data of all those companies from the time they're a literal newborn.
Yeah, but Stephanie, come on. if you treat kids like people, they're going to grow up to act like good people. Like, I mean, and we don't want that. They need to grow up to be good consumers and followers and obeyers, right?
Right. And if you give them a thing called the Aristotle, I mean, it must make them smart, right?
Oh, God.
It's like baby Einstein.
That name's fucking insidious. Like, I mean, what do you think about the name?
So you told me the name of it, and I said, now with sacred geometry.
Of course, it's Pythagoras, but close.
But Pythagoras and Aristotle and Socrates and were all kind of
Plato
Plato. They were all kind of in the same.
Now, if they named it Plato, that would have been fucking creepy. I'd be like, this is like just admitting you're handing your kids over to something.
Yeah, that would have been creepy. Maybe it'll come with Play-Doh. Like it'll come with a can of Play-Doh that says Play-Doh on it. Sorry,
the name alone
bad joke.
The name is very strange.
Yeah, it's weird. Why would you call it Aristotle? I guess it's because people hear Aristotle and they're like, oh, Aristotle was a Greek philosopher. I don't know what he said, but it sounds really smart. Oh, yeah, I want my baby to be smart. I'll buy that.
Well, it's funny. I mean, like,
and I want to protect my children, and it complies with the COPA, and it's about protecting the children. So I want my children to be smart and protected. So I better buy this.
Yeah, I'm really baffled at this name, especially like what's kind of strange to me is that adult products are getting the infantile names from like Alphabet, good old AlphaGoog and all this. Mm-hmm. And then the kid products are getting the big long names. Like,
right.
I don't understand what's behind that, but like Aristotle, that doesn't even roll off the tongue. Like, it's a strange word. Who the fuck was thinking that this was? I mean,
maybe it's because it's got
else.
tots in it, like it's Aristotle.
Aristotle. Oh,
maybe I'm overthinking it. I don't know.
I don't think I can't believe they're that clever there.
Yeah.
I mean, and this.
No,
is
you're
thing.
right. It doesn't really roll off the tongue, but it does have that smart sound to it. That's the only thing I can figure from a marketing perspective.
Yeah, which is weird because
they probably did a focus group or something. I mean, they're kind of like ripping off, like, not that I believe in IP or anything, but they're kind of ripping off, like, his name and using it for their own marketing, right?
Yeah.
Like, if Aristotle only knew, like, hundreds of years later, thousands of years later, he would be used as a marketing ploy for this, like, weird AI thing.
Yeah, I mean, and also, if one were to...
decimates your privacy.
Well, that's the thing, is that if one were to apply Aristotelian logic... Mm-hmm. They would throw this thing in the nearest dumpster. They throw them all into dumpster if they use any fucking sense. So it's an odd name. I'm kind of baffled by that one. I'm just going to read a little bit left here, and then we'll break into it a little more. Mattel is leveraging Microsoft's cognitive services, Cortana Voice, and Bing Search inside Aristotle. Well, kids are not going to get good search results.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. You're going to teach your kids to search with Bing?
Which admitted...
talk about starting them off on the wrong foot in life.
Though admittedly, Bing is certainly not the old Bing. They've definitely improved it greatly. But there's no privacy to be had there. And Qualcomm is contributing its chip and deep learning voice recognition audio and display camera technologies. Kids or parents will be able to summon Aristotle by calling its name out loud, similar to the way Echo owners use Alexa wake word, or use the Alexa wake word.
Oh, so you mean it's always listening?
Yeah.
Oh.
But Aristotle will also apparently incorporate Alexa, albeit with parental controls that may limit some of the Alexa functionality that is found in Echo or other devices, which I find...
Hey, Alexa, order me a porn.
Woo.
Alexa, what's the best dildo?
Yeah, right. Alexa, start reading my audiobook, Taken by the T-Rex. Just finishing up. Along those lines, Fujioka insists Mattel is not looking to compete against the most prominent digital assistants, which is obvious, Stallion breaking in, because they're integrating all of them, Cortana and Alexa, in the same potential device. Very strange. Reading, quote, "We think that Google Home and Alexa are fantastic devices. We don't feel like we want to be playing in that catch-up of the skill set game," Fujioka says. Instead, Mattel's core focus is on education and nurturing kids as they mature. So I guess that's the name behind Aristotle, is that it's designed to be somewhat of an educational device, even though, let's be clear, this is a spy device straight up.
Yeah, it's very educational for the companies that control it. About you. They'll learn a lot about your personal habits. And as they'll be able to have research subjects that they study from birth.
Yeah.
And also, do you think people are going to like basically abdicate their parenting responsibilities to this thing? Like if your baby can summon Aristotle and it's always on, aren't the parents just going to be like, Oh yeah, I don't really have to pay attention to my kid. If they really have a problem, they'll ask Aristotle first, and then if Aristotle can't take care of it, then they'll get me.
I'm glad you said that, because I am reminded of a old Ray Bradbury story called The Veldt. Mm-hmm. Okay, now Veldt is just like a plains in Africa, where there's lots of animals and all this stuff. And it's a story, and they did like Ray Bradbury theater or something back in the 70s or 80s. I remember seeing this episode in particular, and the short story is just as phenomenal. Of course, it's Ray Bradbury. It's fucking great. And in this, there is a room that the kids can play in, so the parents can go off and do their thing. You know, it's television on steroids. And obviously, Bradbury was making an allegory of the television, though I think Aristotle would fit right into this. And in this room, like, the kids kind of experience, you know, like being in the plains of Africa, and they see some really, you know, violent shit. I mean, that's real life, you know, and it's not humans killing other humans, but it's lions, like, eating this animal, like hunting a zebra and eating it and everything. And eventually the parents are like, hey, do you guys want to, you know, come outside to the real world and let's go do something? Would you like to spend time with us, the parents? And, you know, the kids start hating it. And eventually the parents, like, cut off the power in the house, you know,
wow.
So that way they can't turn on the Veldt. And what eventually happens, and it's kind of left open-ended, is, you know, the kids figure out how to turn everything back on, and the Veldt itself actually kind of supports the kids.
Oh my God.
And the Veldt traps the parents inside of itself, and then, like, the story ends with the kids sitting inside that room, and they're seeing the lion eat something that's not a zebra. And so arguably, like even though it's supposedly virtual, supposedly it kind of overstepped its bounds.
Oh my God.
And it's eating the parents.
Holy fucking shit.
Yeah. So here's the thing.
Aristotle's going to be eating the parents pretty soon.
Well, this is the real concern. I mean, and when Alexa, you know, when the Amazon Echo first came out, I did a full review of the audio, and I did, you know, live overview of it, and they were so clearly marketing it towards children. Mm-hmm. Like, this is for children. Mm. And I know people might want to say this is extreme, but I'll fucking say it. I think you're handing over your kids to these fucking companies. If you weren't already, like, you're doing it, you know, to an nth degree, you know, with a lot of these technologies. Okay. It is not for Amazon, you know, or for Google, or for even Microsoft or whoever to teach your fucking kids. That's for you to do. You be hands-on with this shit. And hands-on doesn't mean you can talk to fucking Aristotle and tell it what you want it to do and how you want it to take care of your kids and all this shit.
Sadly, I think that there are going to be a lot of people who will fall into the trap and think, oh, good, this will make my parenting so much easier.
Sure.
This is a time-saving device like a dishwasher, so I don't have to deal with all these annoying questions my kid asks.
Oh yeah, I mean, and that's, you know, and this is one where, you know, I think techno panic is legit. Okay, there's times where I think people get a little, kind of like with the whole idea, like we were talking about earlier with these, you know, cybersex, you know, cyberdildonics, where, oh, people aren't going to have babies anymore and all that stuff. No, people are going to have babies. But where I think techno panic is not outlandish is that, yeah, kids aren't going to be talking to their fucking, you know, to fucking adults anymore. They're going to be talking to, you know, to AlphaGoog. They're going to be talking to Alexa. They're going to be talking to Cortana. They're going to be talking to whatever. And if there's not like just don't buy into it. That's the whole reason I do the Internet of Target segment on Sovryn Tech is to try and kill this category before it becomes a thing. Because this could be really, really problematic. To where, I mean, really, do you want, I mean, let's just put this straight. You know, do you want kids getting their information from Mark Zuckerberg? Do you want them getting it from Jeff Bezos? Do you want them getting it from Larry Page? These guys are morons. I mean, there's some brilliant stuff they've done.
If Steve Jobs was still around, he said he said he wouldn't even give his own kids iPhones.
Oh, no, right. So here's the interesting thing too, right? Is that we know these tech giants. We know there's a story, Washington Post, New York Times, they all covered it. That, yeah, Steve Jobs wouldn't give their kids, or wouldn't give his kids like tablets or phones until they were, you know, well into their teenage years. They wouldn't, it just wouldn't be a part of the program. Why the fuck are these companies selling this stuff off to your kids, but they won't give it to their own? I mean, that's
a great question. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't know the exact answer to that, but I think it raises some awful suspicions that people should consider. Yeah.
It's just like when the Congress critters pass laws that don't affect themselves. Like, you know how the American Congress, like, exempted themselves from the Obamacare Affordable Care Act?
Oh, they golden fleece everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, and I have one more point to make on this, but I mean, what are your other thoughts?
You can go on with your final point.
Well, here's kind of the last point is that, even if all of my fears, fears that or both of our fears, I guess, were assuaged, you still have the problem that who's making this? Mattel. Okay. Are they working with some companies on the back end that are interesting? Yes. Microsoft, pretty good. Seriously, folks, they're pretty good at security. Okay. Does Windows work for you most of the time? Considering the amount of hackers and other shit in the world, they're doing a pretty goddamn good job. Okay.
Yeah, Windows is good.
Right. So, Amazon does all right. I mean, a lot of these back-end companies that they're working with that are actual tech companies do a good job because that's how they became tech giants, is because they took security seriously. Mm-hmm. Mattel is not a tech giant. Mattel has never considered.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I mean, and in fact, just they bought the company Nabby. They acquired the company that's even making this. And Nabby's no fucking tech giant, because if they're a tech giant, Mattel couldn't have bought them out. Mm-hmm. So, interconnecting with Target, Babies R Us, Amazon, Microsoft, all these different services, all over the place. Mattel's not, they don't know the first fucking thing about security, about cybersecurity.
Yeah, you better cross your fingers there.
Hell yeah. I mean, you are opening everything up with this one little stupid fucking device that, in my opinion, shouldn't even be in the home.
Now, how long until these start becoming requirements for schools? Well, you have to have one of these in your home if you're a student at the school. Or how maybe they start giving them out for free at school. Maybe Amazon partners with the schools, or Mattel partners with the schools. And then suddenly they have all your school records and all your legal information, too, on top of everything else.
I love and am in parallel terrified of your line of thinking there. Because the whole one laptop per child, or where schools were giving out laptops and all that. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is how, your teacher may interact at home, with your kid and doing their homework and everything. Okay, we're going to give you, a little Amazon Echo Dot, and, and you work with this, and then the fucking thing's always listening. I mean, what happened? We know what happened when superintendents were given the keys to the kingdom.
Creepy superintendents turned on the webcams in their students' laptops.
Right. In the laptops that the school gave to them. Mm-hmm. Fuck no.
Fuck no. And you're required to have a Google account in some schools because, you have a Chromebook that's issued by the school. And so you have to sign into it with a Google account.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's a whole other thing too, is, making accounts and really hooking kids into ecosystems, with a lot of this stuff. And that's well, I don't want to get sidetracked on that, but I'm just going to say it very quickly. If you think that Google accounts, Facebook accounts, other tech giant accounts and all that are not mandatory, that you can choose not to have one, you're full of fucking shit. If you go to any government institution from school to city hall, okay, if you are a part of that institution in some shape or fashion, you are forced to have one of these accounts. It is not an option, and it's backed at the end of the day by the gun, depending on what state you're living in, because sometimes you're forced to send your kid to public school, right? Anyway, that's a sidetrack. But bottom line, I this borders on terrifying.
Yeah, I'm terrified.
And I think and not just from the story The Vrelt, and I know that that's science fiction, but I like to bring up science fiction on Sovereign Tech because it is the most important literary form, in my opinion, because it explores the potential future, which is that's how we get where we are, is by guessing, okay, well, what's this going to be like? That's how we think about things. It's a risk assessment, threat assessment, right? So yeah, not comfortable with this at all. Really not.
Me neither.
Yeah. So any other?
I don't even know how, if kids that are being born nowadays, I don't even know how you kind of keep them safe from bad technology. How do you keep them away from technology that could hurt them?
Well, it's a great question. I mean, and it doesn't always, I think the answers are still being developed, as we speak.
Yeah, I mean, this shit is pretty new. We didn't really have smartphones until about 10 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, step one is obviously like homeschooling or unschooling or, something along those lines.
Yeah, actually, when I asked that question, I had this friend who had a 10-year-old son, and he was saying that he wanted to have a phone. And he had Skype, but he didn't have Facebook, and he didn't have a phone. But he was saying he wanted to have a phone.
Right.
And his parents were divorced, so he was going back and forth between his mom and dad, and he probably could have used a cell phone. And I said, hey, I have this old phone. Why don't I give it to him? And even if he doesn't get phone service, he could just use it as a tablet or whatever. Or he could use it for Skype so you could get in touch with him.
Yeah.
And his mom said, no, I don't want him to have a phone, basically.
Well, hey, I mean.
And I mean, okay, I respect her choice. It's her son. But, I'm thinking wow, if that issue comes up, what if a kid is born today and every technology is so ubiquitous, could they even make it to the age of 10 without having a phone or without having a Facebook account or whatever?
Well, I mean, I've already covered stories on this show in the past, in the recent past, where, kids are suing their parents for posting their baby pictures and shit on Facebook and everything. And, I'm not going to tell parents what to do. The only thing I'm saying is they need to